Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Women on Top. And today I have somebody truly remarkable that I cannot wait to introduce you to. It's actually somebody I feel like I aspire to be more like. So I have sitting here with me, Rashel Hariri, who has over 16 years of experience as a business leader, and she is the go-to marketing strategist. So she really has built a career helping other businesses grow through things like innovative demand generation and pipeline development strategies. And I'm going to ask her all about what that even means in a minute. But she's the founder also of She's Interesting, which is a media network that shines a spotlight on 7-figure women founders while also sparking really meaningful, juicy conversations about what success and fulfillment really look like. So I am really excited that Rashel is here today. Rashel, thank you so much for joining. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm honestly so excited to be here. And I think you are so kind with your introduction. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get into this. For anyone who's listening, we were having like a pre-chat before we started recording, and the conversation was getting really good, really juicy. So we've got a lot to say today.
You are doing some incredible work in the business world, but for some of us who maybe are not super familiar with some of what you're involved in, things like venture capital and things like innovative demand generation strategies, can you just kind of give a brief overview of what it is that you do and the career that you're involved in today?
For sure. So like you mentioned, I've spent the last 16 years in marketing, and it's been a really fulfilling career, had lots of like twists and turns. And so now I'm at a stage where I am specifically consulting with a variety of different startup companies that are venture-backed. Venture-backed startup companies, for anyone listening, is basically meaning that they have given up a little bit of equity in their company to get funding from either institutional investors or other investors that believe in their vision and mission. And so what I do is I get in there and I look at what's their product, what's happening in the market, what's their competitive set, what are their competitors doing, how did they position themselves in market, and then how can we create the value propositions for this business? How can we differentiate this business? How can we bring it to market in a way that will resonate with the ideal customers that we're going after? And so I help them create a strategy, and it could include all sorts of things. It could be advertising, it could be partnerships, it could be events, it could be collaborations, it could be content, whatever we need to get their name out there and start to sort of build that marketing funnel for them. And then especially for those that are in the B2B space, so business to business space, it's helping them afterwards with pipeline generation. So it could be things like helping them build their sales collateral, marketing collateral, helping them to figure out how to build partnerships from a B2B perspective so that they can get more inbound sales. There's a lot, but basically end to end, I help them with their in-market strategy as well as helping them to increase their sales.
That's awesome. Okay. So I feel like somebody doesn't just fall into this type of career or this type of business. So I would love to hear what was, your journey of getting here. How did you gain such experience and figure out where it was that you wanted to be?
Yeah, I think I always, since I was younger, wanted to have my own business and be an entrepreneur. The interesting part is that I didn't want to be a service-based entrepreneur, which is what I am, but as a consultant. However, I think I'm just really good at it. And sometimes you can't avoid what you're good at. It just keeps coming up. And so I was in the corporate space for 12 years. I formerly worked for Shopify, McDonald's, Tangerine Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia in Canada. And so for 12 years in corporate, I was always doing things on the side. Like I was always volunteering. I was always working at different associations. I was freelancing. I couldn't just do one thing. And I think a lot of those people who are entrepreneurial as well and listening to your podcast are probably like, yes, that is me. And I think it really was during COVID that I got the courage to leave. I was at Shopify. I was making good money. I had stocks. The company was doing well, but I did not feel fulfilled. I was not waking up in the morning, running to my laptop and saying, oh, I can't wait to work on these projects. I would wake up with dread. I would wake up with, oh, it's another day of doing this. And, during COVID, you're at home a lot and you have a lot of time to reflect and think. There's not as many distractions. And so it was during that time where I made the decision that if I'm going to take the leap and start a business, and at the time I was about 34, I think, or I was 33, now's the time to do it. Because I thought I'm going to start, and if it doesn't work out, I'll get a job. I'm going to give myself 1 year to figure this out. And if the pieces start falling into place, that means this was meant to be. And if not, I am highly marketable. I can find another job. It's no big deal. So that was really my path and my journey. And I tried to just approach it from a space of excitement and wanting to build and create and learn and help people. And I didn't have as much fear and anxiety during that time because I think I was just so excited to do it.
Yeah, that's so good. I love how you approached it. And I'm going to give myself a year. I am marketable and I'm just going to kind of see what happens. So I have so many questions, but do you wake up today feeling fulfilled, feeling excited, running to your computer and excited to work on projects?
I wake up feeling like there's more I want to do. That's how I feel. Like, I'm like, okay, I've been doing the consulting thing for 3.5 years now. And what's next? What am I am getting the itch to build a product. I'm getting the itch to maybe create a new technology, to do more. Like I said, I'm just that type of person where I always have something I want to work on. And so that's currently the stage I'm at. It's, they always say when you're running a business, you want to get to a stage where you fire yourself from your job and do something else. And so for me, I've been thinking about this for a while, actually. Like, how do I fire myself from what I'm doing? Do I need to build a team? Because I've been working solo. So I've been a solo consultant. I'll sometimes bring in fractional freelancers and things like that, but it's generally been me doing all the work. And so that's part of the reason why I started She's Interesting, because I was thinking, I've reached multi-six figures with my company. How the heck do I get to 7? Is it like a mental thing? Like I'm not mentally prepared. I'm not making the right decisions. How do I do that for myself? And a host of other reasons is actually what led me to start She's Interesting. But it really started with like, why do I feel stuck? And how can I surround myself with incredible women who are following their passions, getting to 7 figures? And then how can I learn from them and get to that stage myself? And then also help other women that are probably in the same place that I am.
Wow. So, okay, you actually started She's Interesting as a way to kind of help yourself.
Yeah. Like I wanted to learn. And you know what? I was also just kind of pissed off. And I feel like if something pisses you off, that's the best time to take action, because I kept going online, and this was at the peak of like Andrew Tate and these, these stupid guys on a microphone. And I was tired of going online and seeing all of these bros talking about how to make money and how to hustle. And here's the Ferrari behind me. And here's how you can make $1 million. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you guys talking about? That's not how you run a business. And so I realized, wait, no, if I don't like what I'm seeing, and I want women to take up more space, instead of complaining about it, I'm going to do something about it. So that really was like what pushed me. And then as I was thinking about what I wanted to do in that space, I'm really interested in business. I love talking to women about their journeys, and I love motivating and inspiring people. And so all of that came together under the name of She's Interesting. And I launched it in October 2023.
Awesome. You have a fantastic show, by the way. Your podcast and the videos and just the guests that you bring on are next level. But I also love how you started it from the perspective of, I'm pissed off and I'm not seeing this out in the world in the way that I want it to be out there. So I'm going to just go create it. So I love how that was the journey for you. But I also want to ask, for the woman, I feel like it's tough to get started if they're thinking about like, yeah, I feel like I could do more and start my own consulting business or whatever. What is the first step? So, and maybe even to go a step further and say, if you're going to create a product, what would be the first step you would take? Just to give a real tangible example. I
always think about money first. I think you need to know if you are going to start a business, if you're going to quit your job, if you're going to work full-time, part-time, go all in. always know your financial situation first. I think that is usually the last piece of advice they give women for anything that we do. Women, we don't have enough conversations about investing in money, and it really is how the world works. And so we need to get comfortable with money and recognizing how much money we have and what our personal runway is. So the first thing I would say is if you're thinking of starting a business, look at your current financial situation. Think about the business that you want to create. Think about how much money it's going to take just to get the business off of the ground. Do you need money for marketing? Do you need money for product samples? Are you creating a skincare product and you need formulation? Think about all of that stuff. Make sure that you've accounted for everything because it costs a lot of money. And even now, especially if you're doing a product-based business, it's very, very expensive. So my first tip is always know where you stand financially, know what the product is or what service type business you want to create, understand the market and what your competitors are, do some research, talk to people who are in that industry and ask them about their experience, how hard it is, what mistakes they made, what did they learn, where have they found success. People are very open to sharing. And especially if you want to ask them questions about themselves, who doesn't love talking about themselves? Yeah. Look at us. I'm here today. Those are some key things that I would say, because I think it's important to be prepared for the realities. So much of social media shows us that running a business and getting rich is so easy. And it is absolutely not. It is very hard. If it was that easy, everyone that you know as your friends, everyone would be rich, but we're not. We're all like working towards building sustainable businesses.
Yeah. I've kind of heard also you have to be in love with the problem. Like to your point about she's interesting, even that is a good example of like, you have to be so in love with it that you're willing to like go through hell to get this business off the ground. So that kind of is in alignment with what you're saying. So let's have you talk about yourself and share some of the lessons learned that you've experienced in creating this. So going back to the pandemic to now where you are, what would you say are the top couple of things that have been your biggest takeaways in creating your own business?
I'd say really building a network and community is very helpful. If you are building a business and if you're doing the thing that I did where you're sort of planning out your runway, taking a leap and quitting your job and then going all in, which I don't recommend for everyone, especially in this economy right now. I think I got really lucky when I quit and my timing was really good. But I think connecting with other people who also are living that lifestyle that you want to live is very helpful. The worst thing you can do is want to start a business and then go to your 9-to-5 friends and ask them for advice. They don't understand. It is a completely different life. And so find your community, find your people, build relationships. It doesn't happen overnight, but go on LinkedIn, see who else is posting about, whatever type of business you want to create. Go on Instagram, find these people, reach out to them and start to build relationships and friendships. Because at your core, on the days where you feel like, what the heck am I doing? Did I make a mistake? Am I okay? You then have these people to reach out to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with something, or I have a blocker. Can we chat? And they'll just basically validate you in the way that you're feeling. If you go to someone that's in a 9-to-5 job and you're trying to talk to them about the anxiety you feel about your company or the fact that you're worried about sales next month, what advice could they possibly give you? They get a paycheck every 2 weeks. So they can't relate. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the other thing that I've learned is to really as lean into what I am good at. Lean into what you're good at so that you can do more of those things. And anything that you're not so great at or you don't have time for, see if you can outsource it. Because otherwise you end up spinning and you keep for me anyways, it was like, I was like, oh, why am I not doing this? I should be doing this. And then you start to feel bad. And it's like, you have all of these other good things that you're doing, but you lose track of that because you're constantly focusing on the fact that maybe I'm not posting on social media about my business. Maybe I need to do more marketing. And if that's not your specialty, focus on the product, focus on your sales, focus on what you can control and get help for the other things. It costs money, but at the end of the day, a business literally means spending money to make money. That's what it is.
That's so relevant for me right now too, because I'm listening to this book called 10X is easier than 2X. And it's just talking about how you have to focus on the things that, are really in your zone of genius in a way. And the rest of it, you got to figure out whatever to do with it. Cause it's just going to keep you on the hamster wheel basically.
Yeah. And it's exhausting. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you'll go through 6 months of making the same mistake every day until you finally get fed up and you're like, okay, I have to change something. I can't work this way anymore.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then you're like, okay, I have to get creative with this. So along with that, I'm thinking of the woman who is listening to this going, okay, I still want to do something different. I want to start a business or get involved somehow in something other than my 9 to 5. But my financial situation isn't the best, right? Like I don't have a ton of money to go spend on this. What are some options for her? Like what's some advice that you would give to that person?
Yeah, I think it depends what you want to do, right? Like, are there ways that you can, if it's not too expensive, take a course on something that you want to learn? Or start working on, if you're working 9 to 5 and you're busy, can you do something on Saturday or Sunday? If you have the time, if you have the childcare, if you have that support, can you do something extra on those spare hours that's going to help you, right? There's this whole concept online of like there's like your 9 to 5 and then there's your 5 to 9. And some people do like 5 to 9 in the morning. Some people do 5 to 9 at nighttime, but it's figuring out how to stack your time to do the things that are going to help you move forward, whether it's taking a course, whether it's picking up another job. For example, let's say you want to know how to do like eyebrows or lashes, and it's your dream to have like a mobile lash studio. Go see if you can take a course, and then to pay off that course, go see if you can get a job somewhere just to pay off what you spent. And then also learn about that environment and how do they do it properly and perfect yourself. And that's me just focusing more on the service space. But if you want to run a product and you need to know how to use Shopify, start going on YouTube, start learning how to use Shopify, go to the Shopify meetup groups that they have. There's all sorts of things you can do that you may have to pay a little bit of money for or put investment, whether it's money or time, but they always pay off. As long as you're learning and taking some sort of action, you're going to get somewhere. The worst thing you can do is just do nothing and keep thinking about it. And 3 years from now, you'll still be doing nothing and thinking about it.
That is so good. Like mic drop right there. We can end it right here on that. We're not
Thanks,
going
everyone.
Yeah. That's so good. And we live in our heads so easily. I just literally was writing this down in my journal. I'm like, I can't overthink what the next step is going to be. I have to just start taking action on some of these things and it'll just figure itself out. So I think
sometimes we overthink things, and I am absolutely an overthinker, analyzer. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm constantly like, oh, what's my purpose in life? What am I doing? And sometimes I'm like, just snap out of it, girl. Like, just go do something. Like, just do the thing. Stop thinking about it. Stop talking yourself out of it. It's exhausting. And honestly, I always preach that. Sometimes self-talk, where you're a little tough with yourself, really gets you going. If you're just sitting on the couch scrolling and you can't get off your TikTok or Instagram, the best thing you can do is be like, we don't have time for this. Literally say that to yourself and get up.
Yeah. Ooh, that's really good. That's so pertinent to so many people right now.
Yeah, guilty.
Because I think that, yeah, exactly. I think there's something to be said for like being in your soft girl era or whatever, but there's also something to be said for the other side of that, which is like, come on, let's take the next step and get out of this funk with whatever it is. So yeah, I really love that. The social media scrolling is real. So what is something that you work with a lot of women, and I think this is your passion, is really helping women in so many different ways with She's Interesting and with your consulting agency. So what are you seeing as common themes that women specifically tend to struggle with?
Always feeling like they're not ready. Always feeling like I could learn more, or, we have been taught since we were little girls about perfection, right? Boys were taught to be messy, to play, to be competitive, to learn, and girls were taught to be perfect and pretty and prim and proper. And so I am also learning how to undo a lot of that learning. As like a perfectionist A-type personality, sometimes I can be B-type too. I like that. I like leaning back a little. But as someone who got attention when I did things really good growing up, it's hard then to let go of some of that. And I think that's the biggest struggle for women, is not just taking the leap and not being okay with being messy. Yeah. Not everything needs to be perfect. I mean, if you have a partner in your life who is a man, look at his feed versus look at yours. My feed is girls in their soft girl era, girls cleaning up their house, girls like rearranging flowers and doing very like cutesy things. I look at my husband's and it's like completely different. So even like our algorithms and the things that it's showing us and the concepts about life that it's reinforcing in us are completely different. Why does my house have to look perfect? Why do I need to have flower arrangements every week? Why do I need to like do a cleanup every Sunday? Maybe I'm a freaking busy entrepreneur and I'm making money and I don't want to do that. And I don't have to. So these are the type of things that I try to tell myself, because I think as women, we're just too hard on ourselves, and we need to stop that.
Yeah. Gosh, I have never thought about like what you described as far as when we're young and how boys like play and they go get dirty. And that's just like part of what it is. And girls play with Barbies or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's very different. And so for somebody like, I totally relate to that. I was always I got good grades. I wanted to get approval. I wanted to fit in the box and like have people like me. How are you undoing that for yourself? What are some tips that you can give about that journey?
I think some of it can be just the way that we talk to ourselves. So the way that you talk to yourself, if you think about the things that you're actually saying and you pause and you're like, wow, this is like a repetitive thought or thing that I keep telling myself. Is that the truth? Or is it just me being in this comfort zone of feeling like I should be talking to myself in this way? I think that's one. I think journaling is another thing, because if you just free journal where you're just writing your thoughts and go back to it every couple of months and actually read what you were saying, sometimes you realize like, wow, I really was not thinking clearly at that time. Or you start to see the habits and the thinking patterns. And I also think therapy really helps. Go to therapy if you can. If you can afford therapy, if you can afford the support, or if you have a good network of people who are very positive and open-minded and will give you clear feedback on the thoughts that you're having, use that. And I also think like, we just need to work on ourselves. If you're someone who's into self-improvement and you're okay with looking in the mirror and seeing the things that you could be doing differently to help you in life, that's my approach, right? So I've always literally, since I was like 18, I read my first self-help book. That was almost 20 years ago. So to me, it's just like, this is just how I live my life. I'm constantly trying to improve, maybe to a fault, actually. Like I said, the overanalyzing. But you need to be able to like talk to yourself and help yourself progress in life and find people that are like-minded that will support that journey that you're on.
Yeah. I think that's so huge. And what you said about the self-talk piece is really critical. It's something, again, even like very real for me. Like this week, I was thinking about the cleaning of the house and we just moved into a new place and all the little things that come with that. And it was like, gosh, do I need to be doing all of that? Do I need to be stressing myself out to the, nth degree with all these little things that really doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Not really.
And sometimes if you think, and sorry to interrupt, if you think about your partner, like I'll literally be like, my husband does not care. Like he is going about his day. He went to work. He came home. He's walking the dog. Right. He does not care that maybe there's a little hairball in the corner. He doesn't even see it. I've asked him and he goes, where? What are you talking about?
Blind.
And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? I want to be more like you. Train me to be like you. I don't want you to be like me. I want to be chill. So I think that's a good way too. Sometimes just look at your partner and be like, wow, he's got it so easy. He's just like not thinking about these things.
Totally. Yeah. That's such a good, relatable example because that's very true in my house too. I'm like, oh gosh, you're just watching TV tonight. And he's like, yeah, like I'm done with the day and that's what's happening. I actually brought a psychologist on, for an episode and she was saying the same thing. She's like, I had this conversation with my husband and he was like, well, when I'm done with, work and I feel like I've done enough, I'm done and I rest. And she was like, wow, because so many of us just,
what is that like?
Yeah, right. And she was like actually asking him like, teach me how to do this because we just are constantly like, even when I go on a walk, I have to be careful not to be like listening to a masterclass or constantly. I mean, sometimes that's awesome, but just every little inch of my day, I tend to like fill with like, how can I be developing or productive or whatever?
It's too much. I hear you. I started to do this thing. So I'm on TikTok as well. And I just kind of post random stuff on TikTok, but I started doing this thing where I do these like silent walks, I call them, or like quiet walks where I have my phone with me for safety reasons, of course, but I don't have my music on. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm just not listening to anything, but I'm just letting my thoughts flow. I'm listening to the birds. I'm listening to the cars. I'm listening to the fountain that's near my house. That's the kind of thing that I'm doing on my walk and spending time with my pet, my dog, and being present. And I find that really helps because even there's statistics and data, and I don't have them on hand right now, but they show how much we are bombarded with information and the human brain can only handle so much. And if you're getting too much noise and information on a daily basis and you don't have the time to process it, it's actually really bad for the development of your brain. So It's actually not a good thing to be absorbing too much. The human brain actually needs time to rest.
Yeah. And also, don't you get your best ideas sometimes in those quiet moments when you're able to just like let yourself be with yourself, basically? I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes on walks is like all the ideas start coming, especially if I'm not consuming.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
love that you're doing those quiet walks. That I feel like I need to implement that definitely more. I've gotten off kilter with that. So
Yeah.
that's a good reminder. And the development of the brain, that's huge too. Okay. So I'm curious for just to kind of hear about the future plans of where you're heading. What are you like? What do you feel like you're going to be focusing on in the next couple of years with She's Interesting and with your consulting business? I know you have some big dreams and visions. So I'm just curious what you're thinking of now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to continue to grow my consulting business. I want to get to that 7-figure level. And right now, I am building up my collective of people to work with that can support me on certain parts of the business so I can really go out there and sell. And that's really exciting because it takes me away from a little bit of what I'm doing right now, but pushes me in a different direction. So with consulting, I want to keep growing that. I also want to look at my streams of revenue, right? Like look at the different places that you're making money from and try to build. I want to do more paid speaking engagements. I love speaking engagements. I love doing motivational talks and just sharing information about marketing and business that can help people. And for She's Interesting, I really want to grow it into a larger media entity. My dream is for She's Interesting to have different chapters around the world, to be able to support people. We've already done 2 events this past year by myself. Like I do this all alone on the side of my desk while I'm running my consulting business. But I've done, a bunch of different partnerships this year and had in-person events where I brought women together, founders together, investors at the table. And that's been very fulfilling. So would love to do more of that. And honestly, it's a call out to your audience, but I am looking for people to help me with a few things. So I'll name it on the show. If anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, is I'm looking for someone that can help me with sponsorships and partnerships, which She's Interesting as we grow. I currently have a social media manager that's supporting me and she's been lovely. And would love to get someone to help me with like producing the show and reaching out to some of these really big guests that I have my eye on. So it's these 3 key roles that I would love to fill to help grow She's Interesting. I think there's so much information that we give. I get so much incredible feedback from women being like, hey, your episode actually helped me. I'm going through a difficult time, or I just quit my job, or I'm starting my business, or it's really motivating me. And that keeps me going. Like that's really, why else would I do this? Right? Just to spend my time talking on a mic. Like there has to be a purpose there.
Yeah. So, and thank you so much for sharing those opportunities. I'm getting excited just hearing of your plans and kind of where you're heading. So that was kind of the nature of that question. But what do you feel like at this time is kind of that legacy that you are leaving behind? Like, what is your purpose doing all of this work?
Yeah, I think it's for me, what I'm realizing more and more is each of us has the ability to just lean into who we are and our confidence and what we're good at and share with people. And I think with me, it's what I'm learning to be more and more proud of is that my thinking patterns are different from other people's thinking patterns. The way I view things is different from other people. And I have a lot of things to share that could benefit the world. And so from an altruistic perspective, I think it would be a disservice for me to just save those things for my friends and like the little WhatsApp groups that we have. But I don't know if you've done your human design, but I'm very much a generator. So idea person, always have things on the go, really good at getting other people pumped up when I'm talking to them. I mean, I'm part of a club here. And even just yesterday, I was talking to this guy we just met and I was like, what do you do for your business? Right away, started sharing ideas and connecting. And like that gives me energy, but that also gives the people I'm talking to energy. So I want to continue to use that energy while I have it. I still have the stamina to help other people and to use my platform for a purpose.
Yeah. I think you're definitely doing that. And I love that that's fulfilling to you. I definitely resonate with the generator piece. And so just being able to, like you said, kind of redefine the narrative for yourself of like, I have so much to give. And I think sometimes as women, at least for myself, we hold ourselves back a little bit with that. Like we just think, oh, well, I guess I'm good at that. And we kind of just sweep it under the rug. And so I love that you're kind of illuminating this of like, actually, no, I have a lot of value. And I feel like I just want to amplify that. And I feel like more women, I hope, continue to do that and realize that they are amazingly talented.
Absolutely. And I think a reason probably it could be why we're not seeing a lot of people step into this right now is because when you're constantly consuming just content from other people, you're not giving yourself the time to reflect on what you're doing well and what you like and what's energizing you. Social media is one of the biggest energy drains ever. You're constantly sitting there looking at other people's curated life and how clean it is and how nice and how fit and how pretty they are and how rich they are. And then you look around at your house or your apartment or your car and you think like, what am I missing? What's wrong with me? And we need to change that narrative. It's not what's wrong with you. It's what do you have that you should be grateful for? What do you want to do next? How do you get there? And then how do you spend less time being drained by these social media apps? And instead of letting those apps use you, figure out how you can use those apps to your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I find myself sometimes putting certain people on pedestals. And then I have to sit back and question myself a little bit on like, do I really want their life though? Like, do I really want every single thing that they have? And also, I have no idea what the behind the curtain is. Like they could be $1 million in debt and having marital issues. Like truly, I mean, and sometimes you find that out by actually getting to know some of these people. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's also like questioning some of those things that we tell ourselves like, oh, this person's just got it all. And she just has so much energy and she's the perfect mom and she's a business savvy entrepreneur. And like, whoa,
it's true. You know what I do sometimes if I find myself getting into that trap is I think about two things. One thing, I think about that person cleaning their toilet because that makes them seem very, very normal like the rest of us. Even though some people, they have help that cleans their toilets, it doesn't matter. I picture that person cleaning their toilet just like the rest of us. And then the second thing is I actually picture if I start to idolize someone's relationship or their life, I picture, because this happens in everyone's life, them having an argument with their spouse or their partner. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm creating this like beautiful, immediately we go into, oh, their partner's probably so kind and caring. And they posted this video on Instagram, which like most of the time it's staged and they're probably so like sweet together and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. Let me think about the time where he probably annoyed her because he left his socks on the floor or something like that. And then you start to think, okay, everyone is the same. And so I think that helps me. That's my little tip for you guys to think about is like thinking about this influencer you're idolizing and her partner pissing her off because he's like not cleaning up after himself. Everybody has that.
Think of toilet cleaning, socks on the floor. Like those two things. That's so good actually though, because it really humanizes it and makes it like, oh, okay, hold on. Like, why is my brain going here? Like, let's make it more real.
Yeah.
So who is it that, you know, and I know we're kind of getting close to time here, but just as one of my last questions, I want to know who you look up to because obviously you're super driven, you're motivated, you're doing a lot. So who is it that drives you and moves you forward?
That's a good question. I feel like less and less I have these models in front of me. I know that when I was growing up, I always used to watch Oprah. I would come home from school, 4 p.m. Oprah was on. And that was the thing. I would watch her show for years. And I feel like at the time, what she was sharing and the messages that she had and what she was doing with her platform really resonated with me. And so if there was one person, I would have always looked to her because she seemed very grounded. She had a really good interview style. She was bringing, topics to light that people weren't talking about in society. And so if there was one person, I would say she probably had one of the largest impacts in my life. I would always joke that I had my mom and then I had my mom, Oprah, or like Oprah mom. And that was kind of it. And outside of that, now that I'm older, I just see the imperfection in everyone. And I just see that everyone's just trying their best. And so I always try to look at what are things that I can learn from people that are doing incredible things that I hope to one day get close to achieving. And that's really it. And then I leave it at that. But I would love to meet Oprah though. Like if I had one person that I could go have a brunch with, it would be her because she intimidates me, number one, but two, I also feel like she would, smack some sense into me when I need it.
Yeah. I am with you on Oprah. I admire her in so many ways. So I totally understand. And I've actually like written her name as like a podcast guest. Like obviously I'm not there yet, but
yeah.
Like we'll put that there at some point, once this thing expands more and more. So I love that you shared that. Where can people find you? You're incredible. I am just loving this conversation. We could talk for half a day, but neither of us have time for that today. But where can people find you, find out more information, follow you?
Sure. So you guys can follow me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Rashel Hariri. I think I'm the only Rashel Hariri, so we should be good. You can also find me on Instagram, Rashel Hariri, as well as She's Interesting podcast. And then you can go to my website. If you ever want to reach out and connect, there's a contact form at RashelHariri.com. You can also go to she'sinteresting.com to see what podcasts we have. We're going to start creating more content, like actual downloadable booklets and things based off of a lot of the things that we've talked about today, business tips, mindset tips, that kind of stuff is going to be available next year on she'sinteresting.com. So yeah, I mean, like I'm pretty easy to reach. I'm not Oprah. So you guys can find me online and it's pretty easy to send me a message.
Yeah, I love that. And your podcast, again, She's Interesting, and the media that you're creating with that is just awesome.
Yeah.
So,
actually, duh. I didn't even mention that. So She's Interesting on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we also post on YouTube as well because the podcast is all video format. So please follow She's Interesting, subscribe, and give us a rating. Those ratings really help out. Also rate this Valerie's podcast. The more 5-star ratings we get, the more great content we can create for you all.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That is so true. The ratings really do make a difference. I know we hear that like everywhere, but we're not just saying that just to say it. So
it really does matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So a tradition I've had on this show is I like to ask the guest I'm interviewing to leave like a quote or just something that resonates with them, they feel called to share for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So what I'd like to do is share what my last guest shared with you and then invite you to do the same for the next. So my previous guest shared, and she wanted this to be shared with you and also kind of everybody listening, but she said, one of the things I feel is important to understand and accept about ourselves is that we always have the best of intentions. And so even when we are doing behaviors that we might be ashamed of, those are parts of our mind trying to protect us. And they have the best of intentions. And when we can know that and accept it, and we integrate those parts, that's when we can really change.
That was beautiful. It's all snapped for that. That was deep.
Yeah. When I heard it, I was like, wow, it kind of just let some of the pressure a little bit off the hook for me. So I'd like to see what you feel called to share for whoever I interview next.
Yeah. So there's this quote I love. I think it's from a Persian poet. His name is Hafez from like thousands of years ago. I believe it's Hafez. I could be wrong, but it always resonates with me. It's basically, he says, ever since happiness heard your name, it has been running through the streets trying to find you.
Oh, I love that.
That is deep.
Wow.
Is
okay.
deep.
So this is a Persian poet. I'm going to have to go look it up. Ever since happiness found your name or heard your name?
Ever since happiness heard your name, it's been like running through the streets trying to find you.
That is so, so good.
Yeah. It kind of takes me to that place of like the things that you want in life sometimes are trying to find you as well. And so like this happiness that's so fleeting that we're trying to look for is like out there, it's trying to come to us. And so I love that quote every time, like I'm having a moment or I'm having I'm in a beautiful place or I'm on vacation or I'm like, whatever. I think about that and I'm like, yeah, these things that I want in life, this positive energy I want in my life is also looking for me. Like attracts like. And so I love that quote. So I hope everyone enjoys that too.
Thank you.
And I can send it to you after. I'll email it to you.
Yeah. Thank you. You can tell I'm hooked on it. I love simple quotes like that paint a picture and it like is kind of romantic also in nature. But I really love that. Such a good reminder. Gosh, Rashel, you have just been incredible. Like I knew this conversation was going to be so good, but I feel like it far exceeded my expectations. So I just appreciate you. You are just paving the way, I feel like, for so many women.
That's so nice. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. I feel like women, especially the next generation, needs to see proof of what's possible. And I feel like you're doing that with all of the things that you're creating. And I cannot wait to see what you're creating next. So thank you so much for being here. Just so appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for creating this platform and bringing us on to have these really fun, but really impactful conversations. I love what you're doing. I'm glad that we have more women taking up space and grabbing the microphone, because I think the more there is of us out there speaking our minds, sharing what's happening, the more we can normalize, the way that women feel instead of hiding things.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, you're speaking right to my heart. So thank you again. And I can't wait to chat with you again soon. Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. there is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.